Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the New Fashion Conservatives podcast. I'm your host, Justin Phillips. With me, as always, is Shadow Governor Voss.
Robin Voss's strongest soldier.
And I'm excited to talk about how much has been going on this week and how much our pod has grown over the past several weeks. So for those of you who don't know, maybe you tuned in for the first time recently, the Shadow Gov and I have been in Wisconsin politics and political junkies for a long time now. I got my start in politics interning for this race for this guy who was running for Milwaukee County Executive named Scott Walker. I worked on over a dozen political campaigns, and those aren't counting the ones I just volunteer for. I've worked in legislative politics at the state capitol, in economic development for the state, and Shadow Gov has been Robin Voss's strongest soldier for going on 5 years now, a little post-COVID.
Yeah, post-COVID, maybe 3, 4. Yeah. 4 probably is a solid number.
And so we're here to give you this semi-insider look at state politics in Wisconsin, kind of explaining the intricacies of what goes on in the legislature and internal stuff about bills and committees that hopefully give you a bit more information. And we give you these long-form interviews in a way that will help you be more informed and give you a few laughs along the way. Last week, we had Scott Allen, who's a state legislator from Waukesha, who's running for mayor of Waukesha, and Matt Rosick, who is running for mayor of Oconomowoc on the show. It was really great to talk to those two guys. Check those out. You know, even if you don't live in those areas, those are good candidates to hear from and people who, you know, should be models for our candidates in cities and across the state. And those are the types of people we need leading. So we've got so much to react to this week. We have to start with the biggest news, which is the launch of the Heartland Post. In case you missed it, Dan O'Donnell launched a new conservative news website, and we are part of it. And you can read what we're writing there. There's a lot of great stuff, including the ultimate conservative voter guide. So Shadow Gov, you want to give the listeners a little recap of what you wrote this week and what you like?
Well, there's a lot to go over, and I won't, belabor any of the major points. But I think my favorite thing that I talked about this week was probably regarding public education, but also talked about the Democrats' primary for governor, which of course we'll get into later, and then also talked about the horrible murder of the Loyola student and kind of how that's going to. Although that's an isolated incident, we've had these instances in Wisconsin, maybe not as horrific. I mean, there have been other horrific deaths and other tragedies that have happened, but the Loyola situation was just so tragic that it kind of went viral and, of course, captured a lot of hearts and minds. So just talked a little bit about how, yes, the Wisconsin Democrats are kind of already there, but the legislature is kind of keeping back a lot of those worst intentions. But going back to my favorite piece from this week was just kind of my thoughts, my opinions, not an article, regarding public education and property taxes, especially. So we're seeing this. There's a concerted effort on the part of Democrats and their lackeys about trying to message on property tax, which is smart of them. Democrats might be, we might disagree, but they're not always dumb. And they are clearly trying to get in front of the property tax issue. So they did a press conference. There were a number of Senate Democrats that did a press conference talking about, we need, public schools are underfunded and it's because of Republicans. Well, it's pretty hard. It's pretty easy, I should say. It's pretty easy to dispute this because you just throw up the screenshot of the governor's signing the budget, his little press release. He said this is a pro-kid, pro-Wisconsin, pro-family budget, and then talks about how we invested in public education, UW, talk special education. So either someone's wrong, okay? Either we did send money to schools or we didn't, or maybe you can disagree on the number, sure, but to say that, they're critically underfunded is just laughable. So the Democrats are trying to get around this. And one thing that, and I think was not a bad takeaway on my part, was regarding the shifting of the tax burden. They say, we want to decrease your property taxes. Okay, that sounds great on paper. And a lot of Democrats have said this. They want to decrease property taxes by fully funding public schools. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that we're shifting the burden, and you will be ended up paying more in, I mean, the money's got to come from somewhere. So your income taxes, that's obviously another huge part of the state finances, your income taxes and property taxes. So more income dollars are going into schools so that your property tax numbers don't go up. So, but who you end up paying the bottom line, regardless.
Public schools funded with public money. Public money is taxpayer money.
Yeah.
It comes from somewhere.
It comes from somewhere, and it comes from you. So, but this is the game, and it's pretty smart if you're if you think about it. The property tax, you get that nice little piece of mail. What is it, like mid-January or something? You get the property tax bill. It comes in. You're like, whoa, hey, it went up X amount of dollars. And the stories that come out of that, especially in Milwaukee County, the people saying, my property tax has doubled this year, or an extra $1,000 or what have you. Those stories don't look good. Okay. Generally, the public perceives the Republicans as low taxes, where they see Democrats as high taxes. That's a general fact. And you can look at the treasurer race as probably a good example. They hear treasury and they assume, better financial management with Republicans, less with Democrats. Now, Democrats want to shift at the income taxes because, your income tax dollars get shifted out of your paycheck every week, or whenever you get paid. And if you have direct deposit, you probably don't even look at your pay stub. It just comes out of your
you just see the FICA, the Social Security, all those, and this is what you don't think about what you're actually getting paid. You think about what that final number is.
You think the net. You don't look at the gross. And when you look at the gross, you're like, that is
a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But my net is kind of disappointing. So, but when you get the property tax, I mean, that's a big number. It's a big number, and you can't ignore it. And usually you remember that, like, obviously I've got stuff filed away, but when you see that number, like, oh shoot, this went up significantly. So it's easier to kind of the slow drip, the frog in the boiling pot, if you will. They can slowly extract money from your income taxes, whereas the property taxes it's kind of a hard. You can't get around it, which is why the 400-year veto is probably going to be the issue, I think, for the gubernatorial race.
You're right. You're talking about affordability. That's going to be a main issue of any campaign, especially, right now. And, affordability, when you have a 400-year tax increase that was done by the governor.
And defended by the Democrats.
Yep.
And voted, and I think another part, and I believe I also put this in the piece, was that the 400-year veto is a constitutional amendment that'll be on the ballot as well. So Democrats are doing a good job in messaging this issue. They have a good plan, okay? And I've said this before, but any message can win if messaged properly. Any idea, I should say, is probably better. Any idea can win if it's messaged properly. So I know Republicans say, this is a slam dunk. Yes, but the Democrats can still, if they have a good enough message and they convince voters that the reason your property tax dollars are going up is because of Republicans not funding schools, that is a problem. It splits both ways. But it's a hard or steep mountain to climb. Whereas the Republicans have the 400-year veto, which on the facts is true. Like it has contributed to the increase in property taxes, and the referendums as well certainly have done their fair share. But if they can connect the constitutional amendment, which is going to pass, you would think. I don't know what the language looks like. You would have to look at that again. But assuming that passes, if they can connect the property tax increase to Democrats, to the 400-year veto, to the constitutional amendment, that is a very clear line to a very nice message that resonates with the voters. If they can connect all of that, that would be golden. But again, you still have to do that, and that's kind of that's yet to be seen. Obviously, we've seen Tiffany talk a lot about that.
Yeah, and I know we've seen some of the stuff in the market law poll and others showing that there isn't an appetite in for voters anymore for rubber stamping the property tax increases for schools. Like, people are favoring more of the value or the cost in their property taxes versus these referendum that are going out.
Yes, the Marquette Law poll had some good numbers that's showing just generally, which is why again, go look at the piece on Heartland Post where I mentioned some of those Marquette polling numbers, where it shows that voters, at least at this point now, we're still early, it's still March, voters haven't quite connected property tax increase with the 400-year veto. They don't want to spend more money on referendums. That's true. But they haven't connected the two. The 400-year veto is like pretty 50-50, whereas funding against, they don't want to do referendums is very one-sided. So clearly there's a little differentiate. And that's not, Democrats say, oh, look at it. They don't see it. Our voters don't see it. It's not unpopular, if you will. It's 50-50. 50-50. I mean, you only need a couple points. So, which means the Democrats only need a few points. So just, Republican voters, just be aware that this is not a slam dunk, but it is easier for us to message than the Democrats.
Yep. So one piece I want to talk about this week, and I just thought about it right before we started the show. And I actually, we've covered so much stuff at the Heartland Post that I forgot actually that it was this week, but it was I wrote a piece on Tuesday on Francesca Hong and her and the Socialist Caucus proposing legalized prostitution and establishing a hooker's bill of rights. And if you think I'm kidding, it literally in the bill says this will create a sex workers bill of rights. Now, this is something that the Democrats have been doing for a long time in the legislature. And after the session ends, everything's gavelled out. This bill is not going to pass. It's not going to get a hearing. It's not going to be voted on. But they do this. They will drop all of their crazy ideas. They will drop anything that they knew would be semi-toxic or, difficult.
Radioactive.
Right. But it will appease a section of their base or what they think their base is. Now, of course, that base has moved further and further to the left.
Apparently
where
their base are hookers.
Exactly. So Francesca Hong and the Socialist Caucus would wipe away criminal penalties for prostitution, solicitation, and running brothels as long as everyone's an adult, and enshrining a sex workers bill of rights.
As long as they're an adult.
Well, apparently, yeah. At least we're drawing
adults have always been known to make good decisions,
right?
Not just kids,
Yeah. So this one, it's another one of those things I think the Tiffany campaign and the RGA is just looking at and being like, and we're going to file that away if Francesca's the nominee, where it's like, this is, one of the bullets that's going in, because, I can't imagine, creating this legalization thing. Nevada is the only state that has legalized prostitution, and it's only in 10 of 17 counties in the state. Like, it's not statewide.
Did you look that up? 10 of 17? That's kind of odd.
It's all like
is it all like the metro areas?
No, it's the opposite. It's nothing.
The rural areas?
It's the very rural areas.
So it's not legal in Las Vegas?
I don't believe so.
Interesting. I don't get that. Well, I mean,
right.
Don't I don't get any of it, I should say. But I guess I would think it would be legal in Las. I don't know.
No, it's all.
I don't really care. I'll be honest.
Really, what rural northern Nevada counties that I think half of them stretch like from the east
probably
to
along
the west side of the state. Yeah. The interesting part about that one as well is the way it's set up and the way it reads is like absolutely teeing up a sex workers union, which means then it's going to be in the bureaucracy of.
They're going to be a lobbying entity,
right? There's going to be the Division of Erotic Labor at the Department of Health, Safety, and I assume it'd be the Safety and Professional Services would handle that. But again, just an absolute ridiculous one. We got to tip the hat to Vicky McKenna, who was the first to post on that. And again, we posted at the the Heartland Post on this bill. But this would be like the first Wisconsin in this scenario. Again, it's not going to pass. It's not going to be voted on. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But this would be the most comprehensive and statewide. This would be the first statewide sex workers, prostitutes, hookers legalization bill.
And I have to imagine if the doomsday scenario of Francesca Hong being governor, gosh, I don't even like saying those words in the same sentence. This wouldn't even get passed. Like, there would be enough Democrats, I feel, that would vote against this.
It would be the dare
Ryan Clancy would be there on day one to author it and to put it on the floor. But for Democrats actually to vote for this,
No,
to get 50
that
what
becomes,
50 Democrats to do that, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, and we'll have a new speaker, and I don't know how savvy this person will be or what their strategies will be, but I think in that scenario, Ryan Clancy stands on the floor and decides, we should do a pulling motion on this. Let's get everyone on the record voting it. But again, that's a doomsday scenario. That's chess on a game that I don't want to play.
Yeah, let's hope that fictitious moment never comes to fruition.
Yes, but now we, of course, in these conversations, have buried the lead. Got to talk about what became the biggest story of the week. Was picked up by libs of TikTok, became a big part of the
mega viral.
Yeah, mega viral. The conservative influencer ecosystem picked this one up, which is awesome. But then also they didn't always link to the Heartland Post, so
it's unfortunate.
Potato.
And that is one of my huge gripes about the online influencer class. Is just let me just rip the picture or rip the text and then not rip any of the, it takes 2 seconds.
Yeah,
the grifter class is a little bit of a problem, but thank you to libs of TikTok for at least showing credit.
And Dan O'Donnell wrote the original piece on this. I kind of wrote the follow-up, which is that introduced everyone to Jessica Fehrenbach, the leftist judge who released the Water Street murderer 4 days before that triple shooting. So she is from Lincoln County, which is a county in northern Wisconsin, north central Wisconsin, that voted with nearly 62% of the vote in 2024 for President Trump. So hard red county. Fehrenbach is the first female judge in Lincoln County. She handed down a stayed sentence and a mere 24 months of self-imposed probation for Deontay Rashad Harmon, who a few days after getting released,
4 days,
he committed the shooting on Water Street. There's triple shooting, and of course killed one person. So just stunning stuff. I mean, you talk about Lincoln County, again, 62% Republican. She ran in 2025 unopposed. Just one of the,
should be an easy. That should be a layup.
So she was sworn in August of last year and invested in September at an event that featured retired liberal Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Ann Walsh Bradley as the main speaker. Like, this isn't just an accident. This wasn't just she
endorsed Chris Taylor. She's liberal as the day is long.
And the folks in Lincoln County are stuck with her for judge until they either can recall her if they want to go that route, or they can get her up for re-election. But I mean, honestly, something like that. Yeah,
maybe they could.
Yeah,
I sure hope that people in Lincoln County are aware of this. Someone reach out to them, let them know, like, this is a problem in Wisconsin where I know Evers has not, he hasn't been able to sign all the liberal policies that he wants to. He's gotten some stuff here and there. There's been a lot of bipartisan, agreements, so there's some give and take. But the governor gets basically full discretion on appointments to district attorney and judges, and especially when there's a vacancy. But that's not. This wasn't even a vacancy. This is just liberals running in red counties and somehow getting through. And of course, this goes to a deeper message about Democrats are slightly more mission focused. They're willing to go to Lincoln County and be that liberal judge that enacts the policies that the way of thinking that they would they would in Dane County probably.
And you wonder why Lincoln County, for those who may not know, Lincoln County is where Lincoln Hills, the youth prison, is. So if you're talking about a judge, he was in the cell. He was in Lincoln Hills, I believe, when he committed these crimes originally. Yeah. And so that's why a judge in Lincoln County, it's so important. Again, not just because it's a Trump county, not just because it's a strong Republican county, because it has a very violent and troubled youth prison at Lincoln Hills that needs, you can't have these people. And not only did she let him go on probation for a felony, she dismissed, as part of the plea agreement, 3 other higher tier felonies. So this is really, again, it's a problem. It's a problem that now bled into Milwaukee County, and as opposed to sometimes the other way around. But this is someone who immediately got let out, walked out of the courtroom. 4 days later is shooting someone on Water Street. It's terrible.
Well, and not only that, I believe this individual was also was charged with fleeing and eluding the police as well when he was 15.
Yeah.
Okay. So this guy has been in and out of not just like, petty theft or something, which petty theft should be cracked down on 100%. Thank you, DA Xavier Solis, for that from Kenosha County. But this kid had a history of, he's a repeat offender at this point, and the judge just said, no, we're not going to, no jail time, just probation. And I think maybe a bigger question should be asked: why in Wisconsin are judges allowed to stay a sentence? Because I think for people that don't understand the judicial system, and I am not one of those people.
We're not lawyers.
You go to CCAP and try to read someone's file, you got to kind of parse things together, and this person,
you got to learn the codes kind of. And
and it's not exactly very intuitive. Again, need our in studio lawyer to come and parse things for us. But so they get charged, or they get convicted, and they get sentenced to 60 days. This kid got sentenced to 60 days in jail. So I'm pretty sure on CCAP it says 60 days, like sentence in jail or whatever. But then immediately after that, it says the sentence was stayed.
Yep.
Okay. And people don't understand what does that mean? So what they see is 60 days in jail, and they just assume, well, when you get 60 days in jail, you get 60 days in jail. Yep. No. The judges can just unilaterally say, no, you're not going to serve jail time. And I understand the argument of giving judges flexibility to make these, plea agreements, and okay, we'll drop this, but you plead guilty to this. I get it. Not every case has to be a jury trial that goes all the way up. I understand that. However, repeat offender, this kid he's not a kid at this point. He's an adult. I understand you don't want to just throw kids in jail. Maybe, like, the idea of throwing kids in jail all the time doesn't exactly bode well for society. But like, either you choose the taxpayers that are not running from the police or pistol whipping people or shooting people, or you pick the criminal.
Yep.
Okay. So it's like, who are you going to protect? And maybe you give this kid 60 days in jail, and he still gets out.
But he gets out.
Does that?
There's a father who is alive.
Yeah.
If she gives him that jail time, if she does what she should do.
But maybe he might go on to repeat after the fact. But we can have that conversation later. But then we can maybe have a discussion on maybe is 60 days not enough?
Yeah.
Maybe it should be longer. And I'm not going to try to solve the entire criminal justice system here in one podcast, but there's a lot of things that could be examined. I know, for example, Libs of TikTok said jail the judges. Well, maybe that's a bit hyperbolic.
The meme in there was that if you're a bartender and you overserve a patron, and that patron leaves your establishment, you are liable if they get into a car accident, they kill someone, they're drunk driving. It's because they were under your supervision when they got overly overserved and intoxicated. So I see, like, people draw that line to judges of like, well, you made the choice to plead down and stay these sentences. Maybe it's your fault. It's kind of your fault.
Well, I mean, I think you could make an argument that maybe there's an incentive, or at least a de-incentive, but an incentive for judges to give these longer sentences and say, well, if this person reoffends, I mean, obviously you can't say that, every single person that reoffends, then they're on the hook, because there's going to be reoffenders. Like, that's just the nature. Like, odds are that they're going to reoffend, or someone will. So then no one would be judges. But right now there's no incentive for them to give these long sentences unless their judicial ideology says, yes, this person needs to be punished. And I'm not even someone that says, every liberal judge, gives lax sentence. I'm sure there's plenty of those judges out there that do nothing. But
quite frankly, there's whole studies that show that judges are people, and they make choices in the way they sentence people based off a whole number of factors that shouldn't be in there. You think it's normal. You think like, okay, if a person commits, this felony, they get this jail time. But in fact, if that judge is hungry, if they didn't sleep well last night, if it's Friday, all of those things change the outcome that could go in. It's wild. Now, you want my spicy take on how I think you could avoid all of these and what should happen to people like Deontay Rashad Harmon? They should, if you're committing crimes at that level at 15, 16, whatever, you should be jailed for no specific length of time, but until you can complete GED coursework. That should be the sentence.
That should be a bare minimum, honestly.
Right. If you doesn't matter necessarily. Like you could walk in and out in 6 months for a potentially bad crime, quite frankly, but you can complete your GED work. It shows that you can actually become a contributing member to society. You could spend decades in jail for a Class I felony because you can't complete your GED work. Well, that's on you.
Yeah,
that's my spicy solution.
I agree in principle. I mean, obviously, we're trying to we're trying to find a silver bullet that we can slap on and immediately win. But there's got to be some jail is supposed to quote unquote reform you, and obviously, there are some people that just go in and they have no intention of changing and they just do their time and then they're still. And you're not going to be able to reform everybody, but there. What is working what is not working right now is our current system, whether it's backed up, judges, there's an incentive to get people along, aka make plea deals or plead sentences down, get people through the system quicker so that yes, justice is being done, but are we really protecting the public? So there's a tug, there's a pull, there's a equal and opposite reaction. I'm not going to pretend that I know all of those answers, but what we're doing right now and having a kid, he's 18, but let's be honest, he's a kid probably. Killing someone 4 days after he got out. I mean,
spotlight is on the one person that could have stopped it. Should have done something.
It gave him 0 jail time. So this story should, it already went viral, but it should be a shining example of another horrible situation that could have been avoided, by just a little bit of jail time. Like, I know we don't want to throw kids in jail, but again, who do you pick? Do you pick the people that actually
the innocent taxpayers or
that do nothing,
or the criminals,
or the criminals? So even if they're kids,
but the message needs to be on this one is counties like Lincoln County, and they're the one on the spotlight right now, but the GOP up there, the county party, the regional congressional district party, the state party, need to have a list of judges, again, who are progressive, pro-criminal liberals who can be voted out of office, and the date that's happened, and the candidate, they got to do better with the candidate recruitment. You got to do better finding these people. Thank God we have the ultimate conservative voter guide. Thank God WisRed is doing its thing, getting conservatives elected up and down in Waukesha County, but we need that WisRed level of talent, recruitment, education, and training in all 72 counties. So now we have to talk about another story that I think you were the one who originally covered this, and I'm guaranteed that it's the only place you're going to find this information is the Heartland Post. It's not going to be covered in local media because it doesn't fit the narrative, and it's actually the narrative is one that they want to desperately avoid. So Diamond Wallace is facing charges of murder for killing a 61-year-old former coworker because she was upset that her coworker supported President Trump. So Christine Jones of Cottage Grove was found shot to death shortly after 8 a.m. She worked at a housekeeping service at a downtown hotel and was walking to her shift when she was killed. Diamond Wallace and Jones had worked at the same hotel. Wallace was fired on the job on April 2025. At the time, she was accused of slashing Jones's tires, according to the criminal complaint filed this week. The complaint also said that Wallace had accused Jones of racism and was angry that Jones supported President Trump.
So pretty clear cut and dry, but yeah, and I think local media did cover it, but they kind of buried the lead a little bit where it's like, hey, someone murdered someone, where it's like, hey, we might have a politically and potentially even a racially motivated murder here
Mm-hmm.
that kind of just goes under the radar.
This is a hate crime.
Yeah, and obviously this is in the criminal complaint. This isn't like, oh, the person posted something on Facebook about Trump and she also happened to be murdered. Oh, a Trump supporter got murdered. No, this is like in the criminal complaint that this woman had a problem with her because of politics and such. So, I mean, this should be a much, much bigger story than it was.
It's not going to get any coverage.
It'll probably will get very minimal. I mean, it probably will be an article, but I doubt it'll be on the nightly news or anything. I mean, well, maybe I'm being very generous, but I didn't verify that there was anything on local TV about that. But yeah, really just kind of an odd scenario, of course, that first of all, she got her tires slashed because she was a Trump supporter, and then it escalated, and there's that pesky ism that always pops up, racism, which is, of course, just a catch-all for anything the left thinks that the right is.
I've been a Republican since high school, so I've been called a racist since then for just having right-of-center beliefs on how to run, the country. But
well, and I know this is for us that haven't been alive all that long in the grand scheme of things. The left, I know there's a lot of nostalgia going around. I saw on X about, this was the Democrat of the 90s or whatever. It had, Bill Clinton talking about the border and balancing the budget. It's like
the era of big government is over. He said it.
Guys. Democrats have been calling Republicans racist, Nazis ever since after Eisenhower.
Yeah.
On. Okay. Ike gets, he gets blanket immunity because World War II, but Nixon.
I remember hearing stories of people.
HWW, all Nazis, all racist.
I remember hearing stories of people thought Ronald Reagan was the Antichrist because his name was Ronald Wilson Reagan, and he had 6 letters in his first, middle, and last name.
All right,
I mean, come on,
that's a little crazy, But this is nothing new, and the left does this purposely just to demonize us. But it's not working anymore, and it's unfortunate that this woman was killed. Apparently because of her political beliefs. And obviously we don't know the whole dynamic. Was she some avowed, big MAGA Trump person? I have to imagine that if they're working in a hotel in Dane County, you're not going to be a red-blooded, fire-breathing conservative.
And even if he is, this is at the end of the is a interpersonal work conflict that spiraled way over. Yeah. So can we talk a little polling?
Yes, let's do so.
As you said in one of your Heartland Post columns, that Wisconsin's gubernatorial primary is leaning red.
Soviet red.
Yes.
Soviet red.
Yeah.
So this one was kind of fun. I know I don't really like leaning into kind of the boomer socialism, everything socialism. It's kind of like the inverse of, the Republic or the Democrats calling everything racist, everything is socialism. But the Democrat primary is starting to take shape. Think about they started getting candidates in September of last year, which seems like eons ago.
July. Sarah Russell Rodriguez.
No, was it?
She declared the date. Remember that was the whole thing.
Evers announced, and that was after the budget.
Yeah,
I think it was August.
Yeah. Okay. But she had posted the video or timestamped the video as late July, I think.
Maybe
when we had started our pod.
Yeah, that's wild. Wild. But anyway, the Democrat primary has been kind of this amoeba, and it has kind of formless. But we're finally getting just an ounce of definition, and it's not much. There's still everything is wide open, but we're just getting a little bit more of a picture of what everything is looking like. So obviously there was the big one was the Marquette poll.
Yes.
Which showed that Francesca Hong was in the lead with 14% of the vote, and Barnes was supported by 11%, and everyone else was below 5%.
Yeah.
Now, Marquette being a Wisconsin-based poller, I put a little bit more stock.
He's putting a little, people put more stock into Charles Franklin. I think they treat him pretty well. I hear some folks that know at the national level that think he cooks his numbers a little bit towards the end. But you're still talking about, with him, it sounds like it's a very straight up, who would you support right now? 65%, I think, ish say no, don't know or no one yet. So Hong saying she's in the league, it's still 14%. But another poll has showed her in the lead.
This is the third poll that shows her with the lead in the primary. Now, there was another poll by Patriot Patriots. And I think there are actually some Twitter guys that got together and created this poll firm. Now, although I think it's a little skewed because they're probably not used to polling Wisconsin, which is very tough to poll because there's a lot of rural areas that are hard to reach. Can't really just text everybody in the 3rd congressional district. They don't all answer. They're mainly just milking cows.
Right. Yeah.
But that poll showed that Francesca Hong had 27%. Okay. To Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes is 18%. And then everyone else kind of trailed off from there, like Sarah and David Crowley with 6%. And then a huge portion was 43% was of likely voters undecided.
Yep.
So again, the gap, don't really look at the numbers, but it's really kind of the pegging order that I'm more interested in. And there's a trend. Hong, Mandela,
sometimes
Crowley, Sarah. And then, Sarah and Crowley kind of go back and
everyone else.
Then, yes, literally the rest of the other is just like a smattering of just like 1.5%.
Which you talk about 90s Democrats and what they used to be. Like, there was a time, probably less than 20 years ago, certainly if this poll was done or these candidates' profiles were running 30, 40 years ago, the poll would be completely inverted. Like the Missy Hughes, the Joel Brennans, they would be at the top. They would be fighting over that, that center left electorate. Whereas the Kelda, Mandela, Hong collective would be at the bottom, all fighting it out over probably a combined 22%. And that just shows, again, where the Democrat base is and how far left it has moved.
Well, yeah.
And how far away from reality it has moved. Because
it's leaning very, very red.
Yeah.
So Soviet socialist red. But now that we have this 3rd and now 4th poll with Francesca leading, yes, we're starting to get a slight bit of definition on this race. And I mean, I'm mainly going to talk about the Marquette poll because I think it's probably the most accurate. Most people don't know. But I mean, a quarter of the primary voters polled are full on okay with socialist, borderline communist, ideas here. Mandela, he holds all the views that Francesca has, probably a majority of her views, and they both share. But
he is right next to Francesca in every way except legally.
Yes, and so Mandela though is got this lane where it's like the Social Security Americans that are like they're Democrats, but they're like they pay attention. But they probably are not. They're not like absolute grassroots. Like they pay attention, and they like politics, but they're not like in it. Francesca's support comes from like the rabid, ultra plugged in, ultra supportive. They'll go to the wall for you. They'll knock doors. They'll call people. They'll do anything to get her elected. And so that's kind of like, and that base is clearly working. And it's clearly, she's getting a little bit of attention. Obviously, money is still a big issue here for everybody, and I would love to see the finance reports of everybody if these poll numbers are translating to more donors. But it's regardless of who wins that primary between Francesca and Mandela, because I really think
it's not. I mean, like the funny thing is, the lucky thing is for the Republican side is the two candidates who are leading in the Democrat primary field
are both very beatable.
Are both in that same poll or in that Patriot poll showed Francesca losing to Tom Tiffany. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think a lot of other ones show it neck and neck. And no one on the Democrat side is like streets ahead of Tom Tiffany. But
it's all within the margin of error.
Yeah, but the ones that are showing, in fact, I think the Patriot polling had a margin of 3.5 and also had Tiffany leading by Hong by 4. So.
And another thing that I wanted to say briefly, the Marquette poll had a very nice data point about name ID, and that Tom Tiffany and Mandela Barnes are the only candidates with 50% name ID or more. Okay, that more or less tracks. Name ID is pretty much everything. And then Francesca Hong and Crowley and such had 20%. Okay, so that's not bad. However, if you're Mandela Barnes, you have 50% name ID and polling at 11%. Holy yikes.
Yes.
Like that is So a lot of people know you
Mm-hmm.
and they don't like you.
Yeah.
And they just not that they don't like you, but they just
they know you and they're still choosing someone else.
Yeah. If you're Francesca Hong, you're at 20% name ID, and if you're pulling at 14% already, you have to feel good that
It's Hong momentum.
The more people get to know you, the more people get on board. And to be fair, she is the farthest left candidate on paper.
Right.
So,
and what's interesting for me now is we are 4-ish weeks away from candidates circulating nomination papers. And I'm assuming that they're all at that point going to get in the race. But by convention, they're going to have to prove themselves to that convention base that goes, and that you're going to have to go negative. There's at some point, if you want a path to victory, you have to go through Francesca Hong, which means you have to tear her down. I don't know if you're a Democrat candidate, how else you do it.
I don't know.
At this point, you haven't elevated yourself above that 3 to 5%. And I'm talking about the Keldas, the Crowley, Missy, and Brennan, and Brett Halsey, obviously. But at some point, you're going to have to start bombing them. And I mean, you're going to have to hit them with something if you want to get attention and draw something to yourself, and you got to go negative.
Well, and I thought it was interesting right after that Marquette poll dropped, David Crowley puts out this new plan, where he's like, oh, we're going to repeal Act 10, which repeal Act 10, the Democrats said this, and I somewhat agree. It is a pretty mainline Democrat position.
Yes.
They're not really going out on a limb. This isn't 2014. They can say this
enough
with no consequences.
But enough Republican voters, I quite frankly believe, either have kind of forgotten or have retired. To be honest, there's a whole generation of Republican voters, especially the Turning Point crowd, the YRs to some extent, and certainly the college Republicans that are in a post Act 10 world for most, if not all of their lives. It's 15 years old now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so most people don't draw the same connections.
Right.
That's going to be messaging. That's just messaging, of course. So repealing Act 10 isn't really oh my gosh. I know we say that because we understand the implications of them repealing that and basically having school districts on the hook for all this healthcare money again would bankrupt the system. Yeah, we all understand that. Voters don't. They've been living 15 years, no problems. So they forget. And if you don't remind voters, I mean, and MacGyver's some voters don't even remember what we voted on last election, let alone 15 years ago.
And MacGyver's done a great job, and I think Heartland Post, we talked about it early on, is that it saved $36 billion. Talking about monumental levels of saving. It's part of the reason why we have budget surpluses every year. It's just that good. But again, when it's basically been running in the background for 15 years, it's part of our Wisconsin's operating system, and now you're going to rip it out. Certainly, the cause and effect is one that will have to happen, in a world where a Democrat gets elected, not one I want to live in. But you're not going to see that effect until after it's done. So it's really kind of if you forgot about it, it's not something you're paying attention to.
Well, but the main point was Crowley saw the numbers and hey, I need to get off my behind and do something. Okay. He's in Milwaukee. He's getting beaten out, at least in the Marquette poll, by Francesca Hong, I believe, if I'm remembering the crosstabs correctly. But he's underperforming even in Milwaukee. It's hey, that's his base. Yeah. If you're not now the problem is Mandela is kind of from Milwaukee as well. Well, he is. Yeah. So there's a base of support there. Everyone's jockeying for position, and you got to cut through it somehow. I know Sarah Rodriguez has been pointing out these videos on healthcare.
Joel Brennan dropped a healthcare plan in a tree in Langlade County. No one was around to hear it fall.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need something else that cuts through. None of it. I mean, all Democrats want healthcare policy,
right? But I think the thing is to say that Francesca Hong is unelectable, and Francesca Hong's plans are so far outside the mainstream. I think that's your strategy. I don't know. I'm not being paid to consult for Democrats, but
I know
that's my strategy. I mean, Kelda's latest strategy was to go on Dryden Wire, which is
I thought that was a very interesting choice.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Dryden Wire, Central Wisconsin, conservative.
Yep.
It's a conservative podcast.
Yeah, but he has a lot of people on. I mean, Romaine Quinn's a regular, but he'll host just about every. And that's a good thing. I'm saying, he'll host. We'd love to host Francesca Hong. We'd love to have Kelda Royce on to ask him about how they're going to pay for their policies, or what's the benefits of a hooker's bill of rights.
I don't know. We would have to have a conversation about that. I don't know if there's any merit in that. God bless Dryden, what he does.
Mm-hmm.
I continue doing that. I don't know if we would benefit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just want to fight, like, sure. Like, I love a good debate. And frankly, my poor friends that are liberals, I mean, I don't have a ton of them, but I do have some.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say they hate me, but they think they get very annoyed when I'm like, hey, what's your take on this? Like, I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know what you're thinking. And it's a genuine thing. Like, I just enjoy hearing, like, even if it's insane slop, but like, I want to know, why do you think that way?
I have liberal friends. Most of them at this point stop on that because I say, hey, you're an idiot. Tell me what you think about this. I set it up to know that I think your opinion is already stupid.
Yeah.
So just give me your stupidity and then I'll tell you why you're
wrong. But I
do
want to hear it. It's not like, I mean, I know some people love the echo chambers on the right, and I can't. I need to hear some discourse. I need we of course need to get our own messaging right, but I enjoy hearing the other side, even if it's insane.
And this is a very good point that I think Republicans are better at than Democrats. But for anyone who's listening, the best way you can be a good conservative is to understand not just your message, but the left's message and how to break it down. And there are plenty of folks to read, books to read and pods to listen to besides ours. So once you get done listening to ours, listen to some of those others. But yeah, the best way to solidify your argument is to fully understand the left.
And I just put a little post out about this not long ago at the time of recording here, and then we had the No Kings protests, recently, and like the third one, they've done 3 rounds of this. I don't know how many kings they think we have, but apparently enough to do 3 of these rallies that are totally grassroots organized and not funded by giant organizations to foment probably voter turnout for spring elections, or just discourse against the admin in Washington. But I saw some pictures from Milwaukee, Madison, Waukesha County, all around the state. Madison's was obviously very well attended. Milwaukee's was kind of sparse.
Yep.
And Waukesha can be mixed depending on what community they're talking about. But I'm looking at this, and again, not a big surprise, but a lot of Social Security Americans,
awful lot of honkies,
a lot of people over the age of 65. Which, no problem with being over the age of 65. Just there's a lot of you.
Yep.
I get this desire whenever I want to go and talk to them. I want to go. I just want to pick their brain. Maybe a little bit of cognitive dissonance, arises, and they have a hallelujah moment. Maybe not, but I have an itch.
See, I'm not that guy. I can't do that.
Well, see, I go back and forth with this because part of me is like, the left hates me. They hate everything about me. Well, I don't not necessarily me, but just like conservative in general. So like, why even engage? I just want to win. And so we can enact our policies and such. Why even engage? But part of me is just like, it's so insane. It's like, it's a car accident. You have to watch it, type of thing. And it's like, I got an itch, and I feel like they're going to say something insane. And I have talked to some of them before. Like, they might not, they obviously don't know who I am, but just in passing, like, just nice, like, hey, what are you guys, out here doing? And, oh, we're, so-and-so, and, Trump this, Trump that, ice this, ice that. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And just kind of just engage a little bit. And sometimes it's harmless.
If I tried to do that, I would get a question or two in and be like, okay, so I'm sorry you don't have grandkids. I'm sorry your kids, for Mother's Day, take you to brunch and get you a mimosa instead of a grandkid. I know they like letting you watch their corgi. It's not the same as a grandkid. I'm sorry you just didn't raise your kids right to have values and want to have grandkids. So This is how you're spending your weekends. This is how you're spending your Saturdays. Instead of doting on grandkids because they don't exist because you were a bad parent.
Yeah, protesting is kind of cringe sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
The third time around is
like part of me is like, there are some things I'm like, yeah, I would protest that, but like, yes, you're having your voice heard, but I just think that there's better ways to.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember like the protests in 2010 for the No Kings, or excuse me, not the No Kings, the Tea Party stuff in 2010 was way more organic. Very little of it was co-opted by a large entity. There was the county parties or the state party had some hand in with some of them in Wisconsin, but a lot of them were just, let's hold one in this city. Like, I'm going to set it up. I'm going to get the park space. I'm going to invite some speakers, bring your lawn chairs, wear your, patriotic shirts, and we'll just hang out for an hour. And, I think it was as organic as the Charlie Kirk memorials. Most of them, some of them sure were set up by bigger names like the YRs were involved. Turning Point was certainly involved in some. They had those speakers, but I remember there was one right here in Oconomowoc that was, it was like the day he died or a day later, and people are like, I just want to do something and get together. And they went out to the a community park and had a prayer circle and lit some candles. Like, that was organic. This No Kings thing is never been that. It's always been paid protesters and the useful idiots that get suckered into spending their Saturdays on a street corner holding a sign complaining about Trump, and not very serious people.
Well, maybe one day. I don't know. It's an itch.
Well, we now have a great vehicle to post those videos.
Yeah, of course. There's plenty of opportunities. Just a matter of time, mainly just time, just having a lot of time.
But we got to talk about one more poll.
Mm-hmm.
And at first glance, this poll that you see, so was about Rebecca Cooke. She put it out saying that she was up 1 point over Derrick Van Orden in Wisconsin's 3rd congressional. Now, at first glance, you may see this poll showing a Democrat leading a Republican candidate and think, oh, this is time to panic. This gal who is run 3 times, right, press the panic button. How's Derrick going to come back from this one? But the reality isn't that clear once you kind of look behind the curtain, or you're not able to look behind the curtain because the internals were never posted. So
all you have to have is just a layman, have critical thinking. That's
exactly. All. So shows Rebecca Cooke up by a point, but the one-page memo that put this out showed there was no crosstabs, no demographic breakdowns, almost no methodological detail except the top line numbers. And it was an internal poll from a Democrat pollster. Now,
she could have literally just made it up too.
So this poll was conducted February 12th to 17th. February. We're at the end of March now. They release it over a month later.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. It shows Rebecca Cooke 49, Van Orden 48. Undecided's at 3%. So political campaigns often release internal polls to inflate leads, boost fundraising, get the media coverage. But putting out a 1 point poll should set up more alarm bells at the DCCC than at the National Republican Congressional Committee. I just think, like, you want to be better than 1 point in an internal Dem poll that's supposed to make the candidate feel good, supposed to give you that momentum and that media coverage. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of people just don't know. Like, it's like every other poll that we've seen. Voters aren't very engaged right now.
But this one had 49-48 with 3. What they do, so, like, how did they? Yeah,
it's very simple though. What they do is they poll people to say Derrick Van Orden, Rebecca Cooke, or don't know, and then like they have 20% of people that say don't know, and then they push them.
Right.
What they'll give them information like, after hearing so and so about this person, who would you vote for? And then they
might even show pictures of Rebecca Cooke's feet.
Yes. Oh gosh, Rebecca, that is wild. Derrick Van Orden's comms person posted a picture of a Rebecca, or didn't post a picture. She just took a screenshot of a Rebecca Cooke.
He posted the picture.
Yeah. Well, she screenshotted it and posted an enhanced photo. And Rebecca Cooke's like barefoot. Like, what is this like New Delhi? Like, what's going on?
Maybe
it's kind of weird.
Maybe it's a way to boost fundraising. Is there an OnlyFans button?
I really detest that. 100. It's very bold of her to be putting the dogs out online.
Yeah.
As is. Like, there are weirdos out there.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the actual problem at hand, Yeah, a 1 point lead is nothing. It's really nothing. And if it is true that they, pushed all these people, is DVO in a better spot than we thought? I mean, I love Derrick Van Orden. He's an absolute patriot. I love him.
He's awesome.
He's so awesome. And the man does not hold back at all. He is about, and I know people, he kind of makes both sides angry. He makes some Republicans angry for
that pearl clutching, like we need to be polite.
Well, no, not even that.
No?
I've heard, I shouldn't say I've heard, I've seen discourse online, and again, it's mainly online, so it's like a very small people of like, oh, he's establishment or whatnot, which is like,
apparently, I think if you win re-election, there's people are going to label you establishment.
Well, I guess if you were an outsider until you're not, you're now an insider. Now. So, which it's one of my biggest gripes of Republican politics is everyone's part of the establishment. It's like some establishment is not bad. Like not everything is inherently bad.
Right.
Once you're an outsider, you're an insider. Okay. Does that mean you're a part of the establishment? It means you're evil now?
Yeah.
No.
How do you affect change?
No.
On the inside.
Yes, correct.
How do you get bills passed? You win an election and you do your work and you get reelected.
Believe it or not, just like being a fire breather and just saying a lot of stuff doesn't actually get stuff done. You have to actually do stuff.
Yep.
But DVO is very active on the X platform, and he does not shy away from literally anything. The man tweets as he wishes, and he's an absolute patriot for that. But and I don't think he would probably disagree with me on this. Not that it gets him it doesn't get him in trouble, but the Democrats use it as fodder. The Democrats will literally say Derrick Van Orden tweeted 45 times today, which poster based, but they're trying to use it to attack him. And Rebecca Cooke, admittedly, is a good candidate. Okay. She's running a few times here.
See, that's where I would question that, but
I think she's a good enough candidate. She's got the right aesthetics. She's worked hard. I think she's worked hard. Last election, she did fairly decent as well. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's other decent candidates in the third on the Democrat side, but I think she's a fairly good one. Now, she's got some baggage because, she was a Democrat consultant. Okay. But, it's... And she's
overinflated her actual, restaurant experience to some extent.
Yeah, but if I were her, I would do the same thing. You work... If I worked in the restaurant industry for a week, right. I waited tables. I would do that.
Yeah.
But she plays it decently smart. But if DVO wins with all of that against him,
it's a red district.
Not quite a red district.
He's the guy who can win it.
He's the guy to beat.
Yep.
And he can, as long as the Democrats don't, put Prairie du Chien and Madison in the same congressional district.
Yeah,
it's his.
So want to cover one last thing that we spent a little bit of time talking about on our last episode about Charlie Kirk Way, which was going to be part of a county highway in Washington County, but that appears to be over as the county board chair, Jeffrey Schleif, says actual costs are substantially higher than the original $50,000 estimate. Interesting thing about that is I thought it was all supposed to be paid for with private dollars. So why does the price tag matter?
I kind of talked about that as well. Or I thought about that as well. It's like, there's something missing there. There's some piece that we're probably not getting, which it's fine, I suppose. However, this goes back to last week's conversation. And if you listen to last week's podcast, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to probably write a piece on this sometime this week. So if you're listening, you've got it here first. And we'll expound upon it later. But this is a missed opportunity, I think. Yes, private dollars is probably the best way to do it. But Republican philanthropy for the Republican or conservative cause is a must. Democrats, there are Democrat billionaires that understand that they're not going to get a return on their investment. Do you think George Soros gets a return on all of his investments? No. No. He does it because of the mission. Okay. the this sign is not, I know I'm making this into some philosophical thing, but it is one data point in many where we should be able to do these little things. Okay. The Democrats, like, they obsess over flags, changing flags, removing statutes, rewriting history. Like, signs, statutes, flags, those are like the beginnings of changing history, okay, or writing the history that you want. Eventually rewriting the history books or purposely leaving stuff out, that's like the end. They can't just go to the history books and just write things out, originally. But they start where they are. So that starts with the little things, like the flags, like the statutes, removing things, putting their own stuff up. And I'm not saying every statute liberals put up is like some psyop or something, but the left does have a tendency to take a lot of statutes down that we really
venerate. They venerate a lot of people who shouldn't be venerated.
Correct. So we should be planting a flag here. It's one sign for a highway for Charlie Kirk. That's it. Like, it's not. Is this going to win the presidential? No, of course not.
It's in conservative Washington County.
Yeah.
So you want to know what my theory is?
What?
So I think they chickened out. I think the county board chickened out.
Probably.
And I think when you have...
This is the scapegoat.
Yeah. And I think when you have maybe, I think it was reported as many as 100 people, again, 100 Social Security Americans with their signs, it's really easy to be in that room and want to cave to people in that room.
Correct.
I think they chickened out. I don't know.
You're probably right.
Would love to hear from Josh Shulman. Don't necessarily need to talk about it on air, but maybe he can validate our comments. I think
you're probably 100%.
I think correct. The board chickened out, and
well, and we talked about this, I think, last week as well. There were a number of conservatives that, like, well, why are we putting tax dollars to this? So, like, our conservatives don't necessarily, I mean, this is just the way we've been hardwired. Like, we need to, like, this is frivolous. This is something the left does. Yeah, you're right. And they've been systematically building culture and doing this for decades. Okay. And it works. Okay.
They've been replacing all of the, the Robert E. Lee's and Stonewall Jacksons, regardless of their military prowess and the success they had on the battlefield and whatever. They take them all down.
They take it. But they want to. It's not even like who it is. They just want to put their own stuff up.
Yep.
Okay. They want to create their own history. And even if they don't understand this from like a meta level, it's just like an innate reaction. They just want to take everything down and create it in their own image. So this is just a small microcosm, and conservatives are going to have to kind of get over. I'm not saying that we just put up signs and statutes like willy-nilly or whatever. But at the proper time, we have to step up. And I'm not a billionaire, so I don't have money just to throw at projects left to right. But I have thought about, if I ever was a successful businessman, I would love to donate money for the cause.
Yeah,
and just
100%.
Buildings are going to outlive me. These things, hopefully, other things, other culture will outlive us. And frankly, the things that we want to do to save our country or to, turn the script, we're probably not going to ever see it. But our kids might, or the next generation will. So
it's building that conservative legacy.
Yeah. So I know that's a super meta conversation off of just one sign that's not going to go up.
If we ever have a slower news week, we could definitely get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe for another time, but that's my thoughts.
With that, I just want to ask quickly, Brewers, opening day just a couple days ago.
Feeling great.
They're leading right now. You think
the White Sox are hot garbage?
Yeah, they are. They are terrible. I think there's some American Association teams right in their backyard that could beat them if they really came to it. But starting good. You think they're gonna make the?
No, I'm not jinxing anything.
Okay,
I'm not jinxing. The best indicator of future performance is past performance. The status quo is the status quo until it's no longer the status quo. So.
They made playoffs, 6 of the last 8 seasons? 7 of the last 8?
So I'm just gonna stick with that, but I'm not jinxing anything. One game.
What had me thinking about this and had me reminiscing was we were talking in the group chat about opening day, and I remember actually. So maybe it was my freshman year of college. My buddies and I decided to camp out at Miller Park to get opening day tickets, and of course, the opening day tickets were completely grabbed up by the season ticket holder. So we bought first Sunday tickets, which was at that time a cool deal because it was the first time they did the throwback uniforms. They had abandoned the MB pinstripe powder blues. None of that was for decades. And so my friends and I went, but one of our buddies was going to be late. So while we grilled out and hung out before the game, we kind of decided to be jerks, but in a funny way. We said, oh, we'll throw a brat on the grill for him and leave it there until he gets there. And I said, hey, just on your way in, grab that brat. And we knew it was going to be charcoal and dry, and we thought it'd be hilarious. He's gonna have to eat that. Well, we get in there and he gets in like a couple innings later, and they're like, hey man, how was that brat? He's like, I didn't see it. I was like, no, it was on the grill. He's like, I didn't see the grill. We had our grill stolen. It was this tiny little Weber thing, which apparently, as we heard in the group chat, is probably a rite of passage if you're going to Miller Park and hanging out at games and getting that full tailgate experience.
Steal a grill.
They stole a grill with a brat on it, which meant the coals could still have been hot. They stole a hot grill.
Death penalty. Bring it forth.
Exactly.
Who steals a grill?
Someone did. Maybe.
No offense, but the little Weber. I mean, come on. Everyone's got those.
Yeah.
You saying you can't afford a $40 Weber on the ground?
Did they saw the brat there and wanted to take it for themselves? I don't know.
We need Hong Kong level of punishments for
public canings.
Yes, for stealing grills at a tailgate.
With that, on behalf of the New Fashion Conservatives, I'm Justin Phillips. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, make sure to like, share, subscribe. Drop us that 5-star on Apple Podcast and Spotify, which are our two most popular players. So take a second to give us that 5-star rating and even leave the show a review. We're happy to read that on air. Follow me on X at Justin E. Phillips, ShadowGov at Robin_Voss_Stan, the pod at New Fashion Pod on X, YouTube, Rumble, and subscribe to our podcasts and some of our additional content at newfashionconservatives.substack.com. And of course, don't forget to check out what we're writing at the heartlandpost.com. Follow us there on X at Heartland Post. With that, have a good Monday.